Hey everybody, what's up? Today I'm going to be talking about the M1 MacBook Pros and my dilemma I am facing in terms of whether or not I should upgrade from my 2015 13-inch MacBook Pro. Now I do hope this video can help anyone looking to upgrade from an old MacBook, such as myself, or people just looking to get into the Apple ecosystem, ready for university or for any other reason. Now, by the way, any points that I do make in this video are relevant to both the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air, as well as the Mac Mini, unless, of course, I'm speaking about things such as the displays or the battery life, which is only applicable to the laptops themselves. And by the way, that Mac Mini is a stupidly good computer, and if you would like to see a video on that, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Now, firstly, speed is one of the most enticing factors for me regarding the M1 computers, and that M1 chip, in a nutshell, is just stupidly fast, stupidly power efficient, and stays stupidly cool all the time. And in my opinion, there is no other laptop CPU that comes close to this in terms of those three factors being cool, well-performing, and battery efficient. And that is mainly due to the fact that Apple has built everything into the chip. That being the GPU, the CPU, as well as the RAM, which means that everything can communicate extremely effectively and very, very fast, therefore using up less energy and speeding up the computer. So it is probably the way of the future, but in terms of repairability, it is not the most practical. Now, the screens on the MacBooks are also top notch with extremely accurate colors. They have the P3 color gamut, which means compared to some of the older generations, and again, compared to my 2015 model, the colors are great for video editing and also photo editing. Now, on the MacBook Pro, you do have around 500 nits of brightness, which is very high compared to the around 300 of my 2015 model. Whereas on the Air, you do have about 400 nits, but personally, I think 400 nits is just fine. And in terms of outdoor use, that is probably the only space when you're in direct sunlight where you may see an improvement from the Pro. Next up is the keyboard on both the MacBooks. Now, this is fundamental. As for me personally, I would never have upgraded to any of the 2016 to 2020 models of the MacBooks from either the 13 or 15 inches, just due to the fact that they have butterfly keyboards, which have been known to have so many different defects and issues, and the typing experience isn't that great. Whereas on these, they've gone back to the regular scissor switch, and it is much more natural and compares a lot better to the old 2015 variants. Another thing that is great about these keyboards is that there is no backlight bleed. So it means that when you actually look at the keys, as you can see here, you only see the letter on the keyboard light up and not the surrounding part of it, which is something that on older MacBooks, so from 2015 and previous ones, wasn't particularly nice and just didn't look as aesthetically pleasing as it does in these new models. Now, the battery life is also outstanding on these MacBooks, with the Air being quoted 18 hours and the Pro being quoted 20 hours of regular use. You can get through easily 2 days of regular use with both of them, which is an amazing thing to have. And this is mainly due to Apple's M1's chip low power consumption. Not only personally, but in terms of any people such as students looking to use this when you are out and about, maybe at a lecture, it means that there is no limit in terms of taking your laptop out for the day, doing some video editing and not worrying about looking for a power outlet. Because with previous MacBooks, if you have an intensive load such as video or photo editing, you may need to plug in after maybe half an hour of use or an hour of use, whereas with these, you can breeze through that and still have a lot of battery to spare for the rest of the day. And for me, battery next to performance is the most important feature in a laptop. And finally, the base configuration of all of the M1 models, the MacBooks and the Mac Mini, are great in my opinion with their specs. Now, that is because the base storage is 256 gigabytes, which is a lot better than the 128 we were getting in some of the previous MacBooks. And I believe 256 is a usable amount for the majority of people. Next up is the RAM. You can get 8 gigabytes as minimum, and you can upgrade to 16, but I personally believe the 8 is perfect for the majority of people, especially right now, as it kind of runs like 16 gigabytes did on the older Intel models, such as my previous 13-inch that I do have 16 gigabytes in. And that is again because of what I said before, the linking of the M1 chip and the fact that the RAM, CPU and GPU are all built right next to each other and are all built by Apple. And there's a direct link between each component there, so everything can work faster, and the RAM does seem like it is more than it actually is. There are also a few smaller factors. For example, the portability you get on the Air as well as the Pro compared to the 2015 model I have. It is lighter, thinner, and especially with the Air you get that wedge shape, which means it's very nice to type on. And lastly, there is no need for a fan in the MacBook Air model, which is great. And in the Pro, there is one, but it is almost inaudible, as you can hear here in this little video. Now in terms of negatives, there aren't really that many, but I still think they are worth pointing out. Firstly, the webcam on both the MacBooks is still a potato, and Apple being Apple have not changed this. It is still 720p and yes, a potato webcam. But then again, they did say that with the M1 chip, they have managed to make it better quality just through software. And it does seem to be slightly better as seen here, but realistically, take a look at your phone selfie camera, take a look at that, and we all know which one's 10 million times better. Next up is the fact that there are only 2 USB-C ports as well as a headphone jack available on both MacBooks, the Pro and the Air, which is slightly annoying, but it is a trade-off I am personally willing to make, and I think most people should, considering the fact that you can buy 30 or 40 pound adapters on Amazon that really do fix this problem and even allow you more stuff than the older ones did, such as Ethernet. But I would really highly recommend, on a side note, that you do buy from a well-known brand such as Anker. For example, this one here, which is very, very good because it also has shielding, hashtag not sponsored. Furthermore, with the M1 seeming to rival and even overtake in certain aspects the 16-inch MacBook Pro from Apple, it does not, and I have to be clear, in the graphics department. And this is mainly because it's the first generation of Apple Silicon, being the M1 processor. So if you are a professional and you are looking for more graphics performance, so maybe someone who does a lot of graphic work, or someone who wants to game, but then again, a MacBook isn't really for gaming, then maybe wait for the M1X or the M1 or the M2. We are not sure yet which Apple will call it. Those are most likely going to be released at the beginning of next summer. Also, if you think that the M1 is first generation and therefore a worry in terms of being a good buy right now, and maybe you think, oh, it's first, it's going to be really bad and I should just wait for the next one, I'd say don't. If you need a laptop now, go ahead and buy it right now. The developers have already hopped on that M1 train and are creating Apple Silicon compatible versions of their Intel softwares. And even developers that haven't yet or that will in the future, Rosetta 2, Apple software that you will never notice running in the background, pretty much allows any app that isn't compatible, such as the Adobe Suite, to run through it as if it is normally native on the system, and you will not notice a difference. So unless you are someone who requires a very specific piece of software that maybe needs to work with a very specific piece of hardware, such as a DJ who needs to work with a specific software and a specific set of decks, and you find that for some reason it isn't compatible, then maybe give it a wait and go ahead and get the next one, or you might have to go again and get an Intel one. But that is a small minority of people, and for the majority, the M1 is the way to go. So if we take this all into consideration and bring it back to the upgrade that I was personally doing from the 2015 MacBook Pro to the M1, let's take the M1 MacBook Air, for example, at education pricing, that is around £900. My Pro, I believe I can sell it for around £450 to £500. That is only around £400 to actually spend on the new one. The buy is most definitely worth it. And as we say in French, malgré the downsides of maybe the fact that the storage isn't that huge on the base, or the fact that the processor is first generation, I think that the Apple M1 computers, especially the laptops, are amazing buy from anyone who is a student all the way to power users. And the only people that it may not fit are people who are professionals doing professional graphic work, or as I said, people who do use specific software and hardware that is yet to be compatible with M1. So I hope this video has helped someone out there, and even if that is only one person, to make their decision, I feel like I have done my job and that this video was worth it. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. And again, thank you for 90 subscribers. I really didn't expect to hit that so soon, and I will try and get much more content coming out soon. So thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one, everyone.